It's the 8th of March, Rabbi Levitt, Pele, Yoetz.
Okay. So just going over this question, Tosas asked, in the Im Tomar, 5 lines from the bottom of the page, Tosas asked, according to the second lishna of the Gemara, that no one holds that charging ribbis to a non-Jew is forbidden. Not deraisa, not derabbanan. According to that, says Tosfos, he has a kasha. Lama lo chaya also shehilva beribis. V'mesim shehachia yacheskel, but because Dora. So Tosfos is referring us to a episode in the Tanakh in Sefer Yecheskel. This is Sefer Yecheskel Perek Lamed Zayin, and Yecheskel he revived the dry bones in the valley of Dora. So the Gemara in Sanhedrin on 92b, Sadi Beis Amid Beis, was discussing who exactly were these individuals that Yecheskel performed Techiyas HaMeisim. So we took a look over there. The Gemara said, one opinion was, I think it was Rav, said that they're from they were from Shevet Ephraim that went out. They made an incorrect calculation of the Kates for when Klal Yisrael was going to leave Mitzrayim, and they went out, and they were shechted, all of them, and according to Rav, so those were the people that he was performed Techiyas HaMeisim on, and there was other opinions as well. So over here, Tosfos is mentioning that there was someone who was Malva Beribis, Shehilva Beribis. He loaned a loan for Ribis, but if you'll take a look, says Tosfos in the Keda Amar B'Targum Yerushalmi. You'll take a look in the Targum Yerushalmi over there on the pasuk in Yecheskel, I guess. The words that it says in the Targum, it says V'havei kad shalach Paro, and when Paro sent out, I guess over there is good morning, Roy.
Good morning, Rabbi Levitt. How are you?
Baruch Hashem.
Good.
How you doing?
Baruch Hashem, thank you.
Good.
What do we open to?
Okay, we're going over the question of Tosfos about the story with Yecheskel Hanavi. So this is this is in the Tosfos, 5 lines from the bottom of the page in Bava Metzia, 70b. Daf Ayin Amud Beis. So Tosfos is saying that if there's nothing wrong with loaning to a non-Jew for ribbis, then how come this person was not Yecheskel did not perform Techiyas HaMeisim on him, or it didn't work? If he tried, I don't know, whatever the details are, but at the end of the day, he was not resurrected. He was not revived. Okay, that's Tosfos' question. So Tosfos' answer is, Yesh Lomar the Shema b'nei Noach hayu musharin al haribis. The Moshe who's haru al gezel.
I'm back. Oh, yeah.
Okay, so Tosa says to answer the question, maybe there is in fact a prohibition on Bnei Noach to just like there's a prohibition to lend to steal. There's also a prohibition of ribis as well. I'm just thinking right now, it could be that why is it that Tosfos is mentioning Bnei Noach? It could be that Tosfos regards Shevet Ephraim in Mitzrayim before Yetzias Mitzrayim and before Matan Torah, that they have a din as Bnei Noach. Have they been commanded in the Torah yet? No.
But I mean, everybody have a din of B'nai Noach at that point.
Yeah. But so perhaps what Tosfos is answering is that they were not because of the fact that they're Jews who are lending to non-Jews for ribis, but because of the fact that they are B'nai Noach. And for B'nai Noach, just like there's an Isser of Gezel for B'nai Noach, included in that Isser of Gezel is also an Isser of ribis.
So in other words, what you're saying is that one of these people who are from Shevet Menashe loaned money to somebody else with rivets, and therefore he was a sinner, and therefore he's not resurrected?
Right. I forgot. Then Tosfos continues at the end of that line. V'afogav deribis lo osi migezel. Even though the Isser ribis is not an offshoot of the Isser of Gezel, doesn't come from it. It's a totally separate Isser. Mikomakom. He hated the darshin in repairing Dalit Misos, the Bnei Noach Musharin ala Gezel, Kol Eitz Agan, below Gezel. Nevertheless, says Tosfos, we darshan in the Gemara in Sanhedrin, in the parak of Dalit Misos Bezdin, Gemara in Sanhedrin on Nun Vov Amid Beis. We darshan over there that Bnei Noach are in fact muzharin on Gezel, from which pasuk? The pasuk that was said to Adam Arishon.
What's Muzharim?
Muzharin, they are warned against. Azhara is a warning not to engage in this activity.
Is that the same as saying it's usher for them?
Yes. Yeah, and Azhara means that it's an Isser, Torah prohibition.
So he's saying that because when Adam was told he could eat from all of the trees in the garden, it means only for those which I permitted you to eat, and therefore you can't take things that you weren't permitted. Is it, you're kind of, you're darsing out, and I'm telling you, don't take things you weren't permitted to, and that's Gezel? Is that the way Tosfos is trying to interpret it?
Yeah, he said, Hashem said, you can eat mikol eitz hagan, from all of the trees in the gan.
Below call, and because it's me call below
Below-
call.
Well, he says, yeah,
I think what Tosfos says, because it says me call and not just call, that there are some you can't, and if you eat from them, that's considered Gezel.
yeah, right?
And-
Mem is
and
the
that-
language
That's
of
the Azara for Gezel.
mute.
That's the Azara for Gezel.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so yeah, that's the first Kiddush that comes out from the Gemara over there. That even though we call it Sheva Mitzvahs B'nai Noach, really the first 6 were already commanded to Adam Rishon. That's what the Gemara learns out over there. And Gezel
Okay.
was one of the 6 that Adam Rishon was commanded in. The last one, the 7th one was Abraham Achai. That was commanded to Noah. So because he got the 7th one, he gets the credit for being called the Sheva Mitzvahs B'nai Noach somehow. Okay. Just like we have that Azhara, that they're commanded in Gezel, Wadin L'ribis V'ona. Just like they are commanded in Gezel, so too they're commanded in Ribis and Ono.
Where does he, what's the makor for that? I mean, how does he go from Ribis, unless you're saying that Ribis and Ona are part of Gezel,
What's Ona?
overcharging.
Can't charge more than a 1/6 of what's the going rate for this item. If it's an item that has a standard price. Yeah, let's see this again. So he answered that Shem v'nei Noach hayu muzharin ala ribis, just like they're muzharin in Gezel, just like they're commanded in ribis, just like they were commanded in Gezel. Afagav the ribis lo osim Gezel, even though we cannot derive an Isser ribis from the fact that there's an Isser Gezel. Mikomakom, keheke the darshina perk dalad misos the b'nei Noach muzharin al hagezel. Mikol eitz hagan v'lo gezel huadin l'ribis v'ona. Yeah, it's largely not really understanding either how Tosfos gets to the conclusion of saying that there is an Isser ribis over here. I mean, first of all, he's not saying he has a proof. He's saying Shema.
Right.
Perhaps they were muzhar perhaps they were commanded in ribis. Just like we know that they were commanded explicitly. We have the Gemara says there was a pasuk. We learn out from a pasuk they were commanded in Gezel, and Tosfos says that Huadin they were commanded in Ribis and Ona. How? So where's the pasuk? Where's the Gemara that says they were? Tosfos says perhaps they were. I don't know. Maybe I don't know. Halacha la'adam mi Gan Eden. It wasn't written in the Torah. Wasn't written in the Torah. Maybe that's what Tosfos means. That just like we know by Klal Yisrael, we have halachas that were given to Moshe, and we can't find a pasuk in the Torah which says that this is a mitzvah, that this is a prohibition. But nevertheless, we say, oh yeah, it's a halacha Moshe Sinai. This was commanded to Moshe on Sinai, and we have it as a Masorah. So according to Tosfos, that would be how we would have to explain, because otherwise, how come this person who is Malba Ribbis, how come Yecheskel wasn't able to perform Tchias HaMesim on him? Okay.
But there's a much easier answer, and that is that he was a Jew.
He was a Jew.
He's Shevet Menashe. He's a Jew. It's usher for a Jew to lend with ribbis. He lent with ribbis, so therefore he
But
doesn't.
that was
resuscitate.
before Matan Torah. It's before Matan Torah.
So what?
The
How
command
is
hasn't
it
been given down yet.
Yeah.
Command on rivers hadn't been given.
Yeah. How could he be punished for a prohibition that he wasn't commanded in yet? You know, we say that the
Maybe
Avos,
deal
they
with-
kept the,
Maybe when we deal with resuscitation of the dead, we're looking at the overall picture. Who is this? Who is this person? What did this person do in his life?
yeah. Yeah, I mean, it seems like Tosfos holds that we've got to find a prohibition over here. That seems to be what Tosfos is trying to do. Otherwise, Tosfos finds it difficult to accept that he, among all the ones that were revived, that he was not. Okay. Tosfos goes on. We're now 2 lines from the bottom of the page. We're ready to turn over the page. Im Tomar asks Tosfos another question. Im Kain, if this is so, my porich tashich lo sagidelo tashich dilma osi lemeimar afogav dehus haru ala ribis zemizet shari leila akum lahalvos li Yisrael beribis. Im haya oster im kain haya over Yisrael mishum lifnei iver. Okay, let's try to read this one again. It's got a few ins and outs to it. This question that he has over here. Im kain. Im Tomar im kain. Now, exactly what the Im kain is referring to, that's a good question. We're going to have to try to figure that out.
Doesn't it mean that it's referring to the previous conclusion, which is that ribis is usher for B'nai Noach, just like Gezel is usher?
So the problem that I have with that is that if Shevet Ephraim is considered B'nai Noach, so who is it that's the Israel? Who's considered to be the Israel who Tosfos says he's going to be in violation, even though he's allowed to charge ribbis to the non-Jew. But if he pays ribbis to the non-Jew, he's going to cause the non-Jew to be in violation of his prohibition of ribbis. Whereas the Jews, if Shevet Ephraim is not Jews, so who are?
I'm confused. I thought the case was that there was one person from these bones that were in the valley that he didn't resurrect.
Right.
And the reason that he didn't resurrect that one person was because he charged ribbis.
Right.
And then we were trying to figure out who was that one person.
Yeah.
So if we say that one person, we don't care who that one person is. The point is that all of them were Shevet Ephraim. Then that one person was Shevet Ephraim. And
Right.
the Torah wasn't given yet. So we're saying that Shevet Ephraim is Bnei Noach.
Yeah.
And therefore we're saying that he wasn't resuscitated because he was a Bnei Noach who lent on with ribbis. If so, if that's the case,
yeah, if that's so then what is the Gemara's question when it says tashich lo sagi da lo tashich? This was Tosfos. This was the Dibur Maskil that Tosfos is basing all of his comments on in this piece over here. Tashich. If we say like Rav Huna, that tashich means that we're talking to the Jewish borrower, and we're saying that L'nachri sashich, to a non-Jew, you may pay interest. You can pay interest. It's permissible to pay interest to the non-Jew. It's permissible. It's a mitzvah. So the Gemara said to say that is what the pasuk is telling us would be very difficult. Like we explained. Why would we think that it would be asur? We don't have any basis for saying that it would be asur. Why should we think that that's what the pasuk is telling us? That's how we understood. That's how Tosfos understood this original statement. But now Tosfos is saying that, but in light of what we've said so far, what's that question all about? Well, it would seem that we would need to hear that point. Why? We would need to hear what the Torah is telling us, that it's mutter for a Jew to pay ribbis to a non-Jew. Dilma, Osi Lameimar, Afugav de Husharu ala ribbis, Zemizeh. Dilma Osi Lameimar. Maybe this pasuk of L'nachri Sashich is coming to say as follows, that even though there is a prohibition of ribbis, zemizeh, this one from this one, I'm guessing what this Jew from that Jew, shari le la'akum lahalvos liyisrael b'ribbis. It is permissible for a non-Jew to extend a loan to a Jew for ribbis. Imhaya asur, because if it would be forbidden, in Cain, if so, haya over Yisrael bishum lifnei iber. if it would be prohibited for a Jew to pay ribbis to a non-Jew, so then by virtue of the Jew paying ribbis to the goy, the Jew would be in violation of the Torah prohibition of lifnei iber, setting a stumbling block in front of a blind person. And then in this case, the blind person would be the non-Jew who's making a loan.
Wait, I'm sorry, what's the case again? Who's loaning to who?
Okay, let's try this one again. By the way, I'm just reading the words. Here's a classic case of, we're able to translate every single word here, and you still have absolutely no idea what Tosfos' question is all about. Here, let's start this again. Im Tomer, if you'll ask the following question. Im Kain, if this is so, if what is so? Okay, let's take Lou's suggestion and say that he's talking. That would be the correct way to learn. He's talking about what we just got through concluding. And what was it that we just got through concluding? That there is a prohibition for a non-Jew to charge ribbis. It's one of the Sheva mitzvahs b'nei Noach. Okay.
Eliezer, it's very noisy.
Okay.
Thank you.
Hello? כן, אני לא יכול לדבר עכשיו, אני באמצע שיעור, סליחה. Okay. Okay, so Tosfos says, if it's so, like we've said, that there is in fact a prohibition for a non-Jew to lend with ribbis, my porich, what's the Gemara's question over here when it says tashich? You want to interpret that the pasuk that it says l'nachri sashich is referring to a case where a Jew is paying interest to a non-Jew, and the Torah is coming out and saying that it's mutter. That it's mutter for the Jew to do that, to pay interest to him. My parich tashich lo saged lo tashich. Why would the Torah say? Why would the Gemara say that there is no chiddush in what you have said? Why would we think that it was usher? That was the way we understood. There's no basis for saying that it's usher. Oh, so maybe now Tosfos is going to tell us that in fact, yes, there is a big basis for saying that it's usher. Dilma, Asi Lememar. Maybe it's coming to tell us, maybe this pasuk of L'nachri Sashich, Tosfos is leaving no stone unturned over here. Maybe this pasuk of L'nachri Sashich is very necessary to tell us that the Jew may pay ribbis to the non-Jew. Afugavduhus haru al ribbis zemizeh, even though they are commanded against giving ribbis one to the other. I guess that would be referring to one Jew to another Jew. Shari le la'akum.
Why do you say one Jew to another Jew? Why wouldn't you say one non-Jew to another non-Jew?
Okay, maybe so. Maybe that's what he means. Okay. Even though from one non-Jew to another non-Jew, they're not allowed to charge ribbis. But this pasuk of L'nachri Sashich is coming to tell me, Shari le la'akum. The pasuk is coming to tell me that it will be mutter for the non-Jew to give a loan to a Jew for ribbis. That's what the pasuk is telling me. It's addressing itself to the Jew, but it's saying to the Jew, you could pay ribbis to the non-Jew. And we asked in the Gemara over there, wow, what's the chiddush? Obviously, why would we ever think that it would be us to pay ribbis to a non-Jew? So Tosfos is saying that, oh yes, in fact, there is a basis for thinking that it would be permissible, forbidden rather. De'im haya asur, because if it would be asur for the non-Jew to give a loan to a Jew for ribbis, just like it's asur for him to give a loan to a non-Jew for ribbis, im kain haya over Yisrael mishum lifnei iver. If so, then the Jew would be in violation. He would be in violation of lifnei iver. What's the lifnei iver? Lifnei iver means that the Jew is causing the non-Jew to violate the non-Jew's prohibition of making a loan to this Jew for ribbis. And now what we're seeing is, and why would we think that that would be usher? Because we just got through saying, Tosfos just got through saying, in order to answer the question of Yecheskel, that maybe the non-Jews were commanded in the Isser of ribbis, just like they were commanded in the Isser of Gezel. And it's a halacha l'adam harishon mi Gan Eden that we don't have a pasuk for, but nevertheless they were commanded in it. And now this pasuk over here, l'nakri sashich, is telling us a big chiddush that we need to hear. That when the Jew is allowed to pay ribbis to the non-Jew, he'd be allowed to pay to the non-Jew. And if you'll say, well, what's the chiddush with that? Oh, there's a big chiddush with that, because we could have thought very well to think that a non-Jew has a prohibition to charge ribbis to a Jew, just like he has a prohibition to charge ribbis to a non-Jew. On that, the Torah is saying, no, you may pay ribbis to a non-Jew. He's allowed to charge ribbis to you. He's not allowed to charge ribbis to his fellow goy, but he is allowed to charge ribbis to you. And that's what the pasuk would be saying. And therefore, the Gemara could not say, why? What is the pasuk? What do we need a pasuk to tell me that I'm allowed to pay ribbis to a non-Jew? Why would I think that it would be usher? Says Tosfos, according to what we just got through saying, there's a very big basis for saying that it would be usher. Why would we think that he would be able to why would we think that he would just be able to charge ribbis to a Jew if he's not allowed to charge ribbis to a non-Jew? Very good. I think that's the question. If you got the cheshbon. Roy looks like he's holding his head.
Yes, he
Roy,
is.
do you need to have a bufferin?
I think he needs a
He has a
mic.
mason. No.
So
That's for
what you're saying, what you're saying, Tosfos is saying is that the issue of ribbis is unique to some extent, that even though Jews can't charge ribbis to each other and Goyim can't charge ribbis to each other, the Jews and Goyim can charge ribbis to each other.
Yeah, right. And therefore, we need a pasuk. We would need this pasuk to say l'nachri sashich. We could use it to say no. The non-Jew is allowed to charge ribbis to the Jew.
Where do we get that the
And
Jew
the Jew
allowed
is not
to
in
charge
violation of
the
lifnei iber. What?
But where do we get the converse, that the Jew is allowed to charge interest to the non-Jew?
Because the commandment on ribbis is reyecha.
What's the source of
This,
according
the
to
source
this?
of not charging ribbis is reyecha.
Where? Which pasuk?
The pasuk says, doesn't the pasuk say re'echa, which means you can't charge interest to a Jew?
It says ula. Okay, it says you're not allowed. The pasuk says lanachri sashich, and we're saying right now that maybe we need that pasuk to tell us that a non-Jew, that a Jew is allowed to pay a non-Jew ribbis, and he's not, and the Jew is not over lifnei iver, causing the non-Jew to do a violation of charging ribbis, because that's what the pasuk is coming to tell us. That's what we need the pasuk for.
Mhm.
And if you'll say, well, where do we know that a Jew is not allowed to charge interest to a or rather that he is allowed? Where do we know that a Jew is allowed to charge ribbis to a non-Jew?
The Azhar on ribbis, on a Jew charging ribbis is only, the pasuk, the pasuk says, doesn't say re'echa or
Okay, so it says
achicha.
le'achicha.
Achicha, okay.
Right. It says ulachicha lo sashich. So in other words, even if we would say the first part of the pasuk, lenachri sashich, we're not learning out that a Jew may charge interest to a non-Jew, because we're learning that the pasuk is referring to the Jewish borrower.
Right.
You're saying that we would nevertheless be able to learn that a Jew would be allowed to charge interest to a non-Jew, because it doesn't. The only prohibition
Is
that the
it charging
Torah
a
says
Jew?
about a Jew charging interest is to a fellow Jew.
Right.
Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay. Okay, so now Tosfos has a question. Okay, let's see what he answers over here. Yesh loimar, dilma tashich leachicha nafka. Maybe you would think to say that tashich, that you can pay ribbis lachicha. Dilma tashich leachicha nafka. Oh, Lenukri, we go on to the next page. A big round of applause. Tosfos of 70b. Now we're on the Tosfos, continuing on to the next page.
Wow. Okay.
Yesh lama dilma tashik lachicha nafka. Oh, Lenukri, Shari. What is this saying? Dilma Sashich is coming to tell me liachicha nafka. Dilma Tashich liachicha nafka. This might be exactly what Eliezer is saying over here. Dilma Tashich liachicha nafka. In regard to what the meaning of tashich means, we're going to say that le'achicha nafka. We're going to learn out.
What's nafka?
Nafka is to learn out, to derive. Nafka means to get out. We're going to get out of the word Achicha nafka. Oh, the nachri shari. So the implication is that for a non-Jew, it would be permissible. To charge ribbis. I think that we could apply what Eliezer to. Here in just a few words, Tosfos is a couple pages of explanation over here on these 2 words of 3 words, 4 words of Tosfos over here. Because, you know, what we were saying all along was we had a machlokes. What's being said over here? We're going to learn out from this that it says la'achicha lo sashich. Who is it that you may not pay a loan to? With ribbis? Your achicha. He's the one that you're not able to give a rather. He's the one that you are not
allowed to charge ribbis to.
Not allowed to charge ribbis to him.
No, to pay interest.
Lo sashich. Yeah, see, that's the difficulty over here. What is Tosfos? We were arguing that was the machlokes between Rava and Rav Nachman in the beginning of the Gemara,
Right.
whether sashich is referring to it's saying that you may be sashich in regard to a nakri. The nakri sashich. It's permissible to be sashich to a nakri, but the question was, what is tashich referring to? And Rava said, "Oh, doesn't it mean my love? That it means it doesn't mean tashich. It means tishoch. Read in the pasuk that it means tishoch, which is clearly means that you may charge ribbis to him as a lender." And Rav Huna maintained that no, it says tashich, and tashich, Rava understands means that you may pay ribbis to this non-Jew. And so Rava was trying to bring from this pasuk l'nachri sashich that there is no iser, not deraisa, not rabbanan, for lending to a non-Jew with ribbis. And Rav Huna, Rav Nachman, they were dismissing the proof and saying, no, it's not talking about charging ribbis, it's talking about paying ribbis. So that was the whole machlokes that we had over here. What's tashich? And the Gemara in the next step said, well, in second over here, how is it that the Nachman can maintain his position? What would the Torah need to tell me that a Jew is allowed to pay ribbis to a non-Jew for? Why would we think that it would be usher, such that the pasuk needs to come and tell me that he's allowed to pay ribbis to the non-Jew? Anyway, the Gemara did answer over there, an answer that it needs to tell me, and that was Rav Nachman defending his pshat in the pasuk, that he'll be over on two Torah prohibitions, one a lav, and one an essay. It's not talking about a right? Remember we said that?
Oh, yeah.
We said lachicha. The Gemara. We said lo sagi the lav hoki. Why would we need to be told that a Jew can pay ribbis to a non-Jew? And the Gemara said, yeah, it's coming to tell me lafuke achicha delo, it's not so much being said in order to tell us that he may, yes, pay interest to a non-Jew, but it means to say that this he may do, but he may not pay interest to a fellow Jew. That's what and on that the Gemara said, well, why do we need to infer it and go like this and say, oh, we can infer that it's permissible to pay to a non-Jew ribis, but to a Jew not. We already see the next part of the pasuk. It says lachicha lo sashich. You're not allowed to charge interest to a fellow Jew. So the Gemara understood that part of the pasuk was definitely coming out and saying that you're not allowed to pay interest to a fellow Jew. So therefore, we wouldn't need the first part of the pasuk to make an inference that you're not to a Jew, to a non-Jew, you're allowed to pay interest, but not to a non-Jew. And on that, the Gemara says, "Lavor love b'essay v'losasay." He has two prohibitions, but in other words, Tosfos over here is saying maybe this word tashich is going to be used in that way. In other words, lachicha nafka, we're learning out from achicha. Like as Eliezer said, l'nachri shari. Oh, l'nachri shari. That's the implication is that for a non-Jew it would be permissible. What's bothering Tosfos is if we're going to say that the first part of the pasuk is talking to the Jewish borrower, so now we don't have any pasuk that says to the Jewish lender that you may lend to a non-Jew for ribis. Because that was the
switching from borrower to lender. Shouldn't it be borrower or lender?
No, the pasuk of the Machlokes Rav and Rav Nachman was this first part of the pasuk l'nachri sashich. Is it talking to the Jewish borrower or is it talking to the Jewish lender?
Right.
So even if we say that, even if we'll agree that there is a need and for being told in the first part of the pasuk, that the first part of the pasuk is telling me that it's telling me that a Jew is allowed to pay interest to a non-Jew, and that's necessary to hear because we're thinking to say that for a non-Jew to charge interest to another non-Jew is asur, and we might have thought the same thing applies to a Jew. On this, the pasuk is telling us, no, you're allowed to pay interest to a non-Jew. But now, if that's what that part of the pasuk means, so then Rava has seemingly lost his ability to say that first part of the pasuk is coming to tell me l'nachri sashich the way he learns it. He learns it that first part of the pasuk is coming to tell me that it's talking to the Jewish lender, and it's telling me that you can charge ribis l'nachri sashich to a non-Jew.
But it's a kal v'chomer, but you can learn a kal v'chomer for that. If we're allowed to charge interest to a goy, I'm sorry, if we're allowed to pay interest to a goy, and at the same time we don't want to encourage close relationships with the goyim, kal v'chomer, we should be able to charge interest because that will certainly make them not like us because we would burden them with the interest payments. So if we're allowed to pay interest to them, we should certainly be able to charge interest to them.
They're happy to. They're businessmen.
Right? They're happy to take our interest. They're not happy to pay interest to us.
They would like to have a free loan. That's true. They would like to get a freebie, but would they be happy to get an interest to get a loan and pay some interest on it so that they can take that money and make 10 times that amount of interest, make a profit? Of course they would, right? That's why there was Jewish lenders that used to lend to non-Jews for ribbis. Because the non-Jews, apparently the non-Jews why would they go to the Jews unless they
Because they were
got a good deal?
they were forbidden to lend to each other with interest.
Who?
The Goyim couldn't lend to each other with interest. That's why they went to the Jews to get the money. There was no lending between Goyim because you couldn't lend with interest.
Oh yeah, that was some institution from the church or something.
Right. They couldn't lend to each other with interest. If you wanted to borrow money, you had to go to the Jews to get it. And the Jews could charge whatever interest they wanted because they were the only game in town. And therefore they could charge very high interest. And that would make the Goyim angry.
Okay, I don't know how high the interest was that they charged.
Yeah, I don't know either. We don't.
Yeah, I'm not sure. But what? But what we're saying over here is that Tosfos is saying that even if Rava is not going to have the first part of the pasuk as a source to say that it's permissible to lend to a non-Jew with ribbis, he's got the second part of the pasuk. He'll learn it out from Achicha, just like you said.
Mhm.
This that it says that Lachicha lo sashich means, oh, to your fellow Jew, you may not charge interest. So the implication is that, yes, but to a non-Jew, you would be, yes, allowed to charge interest. So so in other words, whatever this first part of the pasuk, what the issue, what Tosfos was dealing with, the bottom line of what Tosfos was talking about was, do we have a pasuk that allows us to charge interest to a non-Jew? And Tosfos says, even if we don't have the first part of the pasuk, because you'll learn like Rav Huna, that we can use the first part of the pasuk to tell us that it's permissible to charge, rather to pay interest to a non-Jew, because we might have thought that it would have been usser, because you're not allowed to cause the non-Jew to do an avera of lending to a Jew for interest, right? Oh, yeah. But nevertheless, we could still learn a source for the permissibility of a Jew to loan to a non-Jew according to the Torah for interest from the second part of the pasuk. Lachicha nafka. It was just occurred to me. Did the Jews? Where would the Jews go when they wanted a loan?
They could not borrow from the Christians because the Christians had an overall rule. You can't lend with interest. So the Jews would have to borrow with a heteriska, I guess.
Oh, the Goyim didn't have a heteriska.
I don't believe.
I have to run. Have a good day, everybody.
Okay.
Yeah.
So we will be back soon.
11:30.
Maybe the Jews were able to borrow from their fellow Jews.
Yeah, I have to go.
That's what I'm saying, with a heteriska.
Or maybe for a mitzvah too.